Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's episode 207. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V. And Johnny, just because we can never keep things consistent, now here I am, remote location. I'm at City Church in downtown Peoria, Illinois. And I'm going to go ahead and say it looks like even the setup almost is working here tonight.
Yeah, we went ahead and we bought with our thanks to our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. I like to push that out there when I can. We were able to buy a new laptop, and we are using this laptop for.
Hold on, Johnny. It sounds like we've got an echo, and I'm not sure if that's.
I think that's just your super echo.
But there's like super echo, bad on Terry, and I'm trying to. I don't know if that's something on my end. It's just funny because we didn't have an echo when you and I were off for the last 20 minutes.
I don't. Yeah.
Is it just an echo as in the location where I am, or is it an echo like there's a technical echo?
I think it's just an echo based on the fact that you're in. As I was getting to, you're in a basement, and we don't have anything. We don't have anything, unfortunately, to block that echo. I wish we did. It's a tech echo, as in.
Yeah, and if that's the case, we want to see if we can get adjusted. If it's a clip or anything on Johnny's end, is there a button or an extra feed? I'm going to turn this way down. I don't think that's going to probably help.
That actually helped out.
Okay. So maybe I'm not sure if that's enough of an echo. Definitely a mic echo. So somebody says, Andrew says, sounds technical to me. Well, then we're in trouble.
Oh no!
It's really technical.
Hold on 1 second. I think I might have it. I do not hear. Boom. Hold on now. Hey now.
All right.
I think that's it. My guess is that.
Okay. See?
Yeah. It's always something new, so I think that should have gotten rid of it. Good. Yeah, heavy reverb.
All right. So
we're getting into heavy metal, and reverb is the way we do that. So,
all right. Hopefully we're all good to go. No, somebody says there's still an echo. And again, if it's an environmental echo, I'm in the basement of a large warehouse type setting that has very little things in the room. So I'm not sure if it's specifically that echo or if you guys are talking about.
That's not it.
Johnny says that I sound good when it comes to him. That's why I'm wondering if it's a shot selection on your end, Johnny, something to do with the mixer. Oh, no, everybody's saying it's good. I don't know. Okay, it says it's fixed. We're not going to touch anything.
Yeah, they have.
All right, so
we're good now.
We'll reopen things. Johnny, bring in the podcast now. Welcome, everyone. It's podcast number 207. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V, and smooth as silk. No problems here. Terry Miller, I am here in Peoria, thanks to City Church, who is going to be our podcast along with our live booth location for the next 4 days here for the Ledgestone Insurance Open. Johnny V, of course, back in the Milwaukee studio. And Johnny was just saying, Johnny, if you want to go ahead and elaborate, we've got a little bit of new technical, items.
Just when we figure we've got things set, we have to change them. So as I was saying, we went out and bought a laptop. And the other thing I was saying is thanks to our Patreon supporters, because we're able to do that. And this laptop, previously what we were doing is Terry would edit, like tomorrow morning, he's going to edit from 8:30 a.m. until literally the women are about to talk and do our live broadcast. So at that point, then Terry quickly unplugs his laptop, plugs it in, log in, and we start doing it. This will give us a little bit more freedom now. So we're going to have a separate laptop just for this type of communication, just for our streaming purposes. And we, up until about, as you figured out, 30 seconds before the show, we were getting it set up. Tonight, Terry's in the basement of a church. So if it sounds a little hollow, it's because he's in the basement of a church. Tomorrow, hopefully they'll have a little bit better, the backdrop maybe, and if they can get it set up, all that other stuff. So we are getting prepped for Ledgestone tonight. We did some camera tests with our new Teradeks that they look so good. Thanks to Teradek for supporting and giving us those demo units through Worlds. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, one thing we have to do is manage expectations, though. And by that, I say we don't want to tell anyone that we're getting too good at some of this, because then they might expect like us to raise a bar. We want to keep those expectations low. But in all seriousness, it sounds like I think we're going to see a little bit crisper, a little bit better quality. We already have great cellular signal here when we're out at Eureka. Surprisingly, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere outside of Peoria. So we already have great cellular signal. We've had that for the last few years. And then on top of it, we've got a little bit better signal from a technical standpoint with some of the equipment. So let's hope and pray here that everybody sees some of those improvements as they unfold on the broadcast throughout the weekend. So we're super excited about that. I'll make absolutely no guarantees that the commentary will get any better by Dixon and myself.
No.
I mean, but we'll still be here doing our thing. So
I'm not going to say that the switching is going to be any better. I'm not going to promise the graphics are going to be any better. You know, we're literally doing the least we can to make it better. We're just getting new equipment. Why? We're not going to learn our craft any better.
Yeah. So again, we're here. This is podcast number 207. And Ledgestone week, a little bit crazy, a little bit chaotic. One of the reasons why I would say it's a little more chaotic and crazy, not only are there, an absurd amount of people here competing this week, and they're spread out all over the Peoria, Washington, Eureka, Morton area, all these areas. But on top of all of that, it's also a 4-day event for the pros. And so we only see that at a few of the events throughout the year. Of course, we're going to see that at the finale. We saw that at the Memorial, but those are really the only times outside of here that we see 4-day events. And that kind of, although it's exciting and we have more golf, it also kind of gets people off of their routine and their schedule a little bit as well. And myself included, a very short week at home, come out this week, and now we're jumping right back into things and getting back at it already. So live tomorrow through Sunday just shakes up our week a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and then also real quick, I want to kick things off and say, I won't ruin all of the details, but we rushed down here today to work with Dynamite, to work with St. Jude, to have again the Play with the Pros fundraiser / skins event. That took place where we had Paige Pierce, Sarah Holcomb, Austin Turner, and Nate Sexton. All 4 of them were then selected. Each hole, they got a new partner, people that bought not cheap raffle tickets. People had bought them in hopes of getting drawn by one of those 4 pros. Then they got to play that hole with them throughout the. They got to play that next hole with them, and then it rotated, for the next hole and so on and so forth. Sorry, I got distracted. Nate Heinold, the TD, is calling me because I got nothing else going on. So that took place out at Sunset. We had 9 holes of that. I had a little throw and catch cam action, and I'm hoping to get that released sooner than later. I don't know if we have an exact deadline, but we'll try and get that out relatively soon for everybody to enjoy. So good stuff for sure. All right, Johnny.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say we also have another issue. Since we're talking issues, real quickly, I want to say we were going to have to worry about cutting the podcast at a certain time tonight to go get our cameraman. But we don't have to worry about that because his plane's not coming in tonight. So our throw cameraman for tomorrow's live, well, he might be in Atlanta. So if you're watching, Rick, on the plane or elsewhere, sorry about your delays and your challenges. But our throw cameraman was traveling from Boston to Peoria. However, in the late departure from Boston, that put him in Atlanta late, and then therefore he was going to miss his flight from Atlanta to Peoria. So hopefully we get him, and hopefully there's a throw cam tomorrow.
He's supposed to come in at like 10:30 or something, and we don't start until 2:30 or so, but we'll see. You never know.
He was supposed to come in at 10:30 tonight. Now he's supposed to come in at 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
And let's hope that we can find a way to get him to the course.
If not, buy raffle tickets, and you could be picked to be our cameraman. For each hole, we're gonna swap it out. You have to be in the crowd at Ledgestone. Literally, just hold up $1, and we'll match it to. Well, that's what we'll pay you. You hold up $1 bill, we'll give you another one. You come in and be a cameraman. So that's a good idea. let's see how that goes. All right. We don't have Dana tonight. It's a Wednesday. As everyone knows, we switched up the nights. Last night was supposed to be Disc Golf History and Legends, but Haasfeld had some issues with some bandwidth and a roommate and Netflix, and there was a power struggle. No, it just didn't quite work out last night. So we took tonight because of the traveling. So no Dana tonight. So I'm going to be the one that's going to go through a couple of the results. Let's get right into that. Let's go into the Music City Open, sponsored by Dynamic Disc. This was out in Nashville, Tennessee. The tournament director was Will McCassell. Chris Dickerson continuing to dominate. He won in a 6-hole playoff over James Conrad. Came down, obviously, 6 holes. They were tied after Conrad final round 3, shot 3 strokes better than Dickerson to catch him, but ultimately they were running out of daylight, I heard, and there was a little bit of panic from the TDs, who are relatively younger and new, or I don't know necessarily younger, but newer TDs, so they were kind of starting to panic, but thankfully Dickerson finally put the hammer down on Conrad and ended up winning on the 6th playoff hole. So congratulations to Chris Dickerson, taking home $1,055. Third place was Cameron Colglazer. 4th place, Zach Melton. And 5th place, Matthew Oram. We're seeing a lot of these guys that we don't normally see on the Pro Tour get to the Midwest, and I think we're going to see a lot of them tomorrow at Ledgestone. I bet you a lot of them are making their way up for that huge payday come out of Ledgestone. Let's go to the Open Women, where Madison Walker makes a huge comeback, ends up winning by 2 strokes. Her final round was 5 strokes better than the current person who was leading, which is Elaine King. So Elaine ends up taking 2nd. Madison wins $465. Madison shot $948, and she dipped a little to $899, but then comes out and shoots a $963 for the win. So congratulations to Madison Walker. Like I said, Elaine King taking 2nd. Rebecca Cox in 3rd place, followed by the PDGA Radio's own Sarah Lamberson, a local. What do you know about the Music City, Terry?
Well, and that was going to be that was really my first question is, do we know if there was any coverage of any kind? Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, Central Coast was out there, correct?
Central Coast, yes. I thought, and then, which is funny because I thought awesome. Corey, I thought Corey was going to play, and there was no first round coverage, I believe, but 2nd and 3rd. And at first I thought, well, Corey maybe was able to film 2nd and 3rd round because he was so low on the MPO, he was able to finish, but that wasn't the case. Corey did not play. Corey's been playing very well lately, so congratulations to Corey on being able to get out and get a couple of rounds in. Not a lot of our media crews actually get to participate in these big tournaments, so mad props to Corey.
Okay, yeah, so that was it. As soon as I was spitting it out, I thought I remembered seeing that there was coverage out there by Central Coast, and again, I think the majority or the lion's share of that work, if not all of it, done by Corey Merle. So very cool to see.
It wouldn't be
this last weekend.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please.
What I was just going to say is this last weekend, although I've got to go out and now because my head's still spinning a little bit. This last weekend, I ventured back down to Crown Point, which is funny because I haven't been to Crown Point for a couple of years since the World Championships. Back in 2013, but then I was, of course, in Crown Point for the Masters, the U.S. Masters, the Tim Selinsky U.S. Masters. Johnny V and I were down there. And then going back down to Crown Point, I was there this last weekend for the Next Gen regional tour taking place. As many of you already know, we've talked a lot about the Next Gen in terms of having all the qualifying events. And then from there, you're invited to the regional events. Well, this is where a regional event had taken place. Of course, people go from the regionals, then ultimately to the national championships, which is going to be again in Fountain Hills in Arizona in November, all of that majestic beauty and fun and all that other stuff. And I was just going to pull up some of the details. And I got to say, earlier in the year, I should say always, maybe even back as far as like December, I think Dave Felberg and the Next Gen crew had kind of reached out to me and were talking about me being involved with the Next Gen to some degree and helping out being a regional coordinator. And one of the tasks that I was then given was, okay, I would be tournament directing this regional event taking place down at Lemon Lake. And I said, I'm familiar with Lemon Lake. That shouldn't be a problem. No big deal. Well, it really turns out that, and I don't know if this is true at every event, so I apologize if not, but Dave Fehlberg comes in and really does pretty much all of the work. He was taking care of everything from getting the board set up to scorecards to making sure the player packs, all that other stuff was good to go. He was doing all sorts of things. And so Dave handled the lion's share of the work there. And I was just there to assist really in whatever capacity, which ultimately, I know, big shocker here, ultimately that also led to me doing more media related stuff than anything. So I was able to film the last 9 holes on the Gold Course on Sunday. And then I went out and filmed the final 9, which had 5 players with the lowest cumulative score, regardless of division. So I got all of that, plus a bunch of B-roll on Saturday. And they have another gentleman, Zach, who's going to be editing all of that together. So look for that to happen and for that to be released. But it was a pretty crazy weekend down there in Lemon Lake. And I'm going to go see if I can find all my scores here. Regional. If only I could type right. You would think new computers, bookmarks, other complaints. I don't know.
Was the course?
I was gonna say, Johnny.
Someone's asking if the course was any different with a bunch of the trees that are gone at Lemon Lake. Was it any different really than what we saw earlier this year at the Masters event?
So I mainly found myself around out on the blue course where I didn't notice a lot of difference, but the blue course is also one of the more open courses. I didn't really notice anything on the gold course. I think a lot of the changes were reflected on the red course, but unfortunately, the little bit I walked around on the red course, I saw a lot of trees have been removed from there, but the red course I didn't get to see at the Masters, so I didn't get to compare. But
Okay.
I think of, for instance, hole 3 at the red course, for those who are familiar with Lemon Lake, used to be a really tight tunnel of just a corridor of trees, I think way back to when I played it many years ago. And to go out there, it's like now it's 160 feet with a couple feet of incline and then not a single tree to hit. And I think it was ace 2 or 3 times. So that may be some indication of just how much easier that got when you're out there. So now I'm getting frustrated because I can't.
Well,
we'll also be able to talk about the junior stuff too.
I was going to say, it wouldn't be a good Smashbox episode unless I absolutely slaughtered some foreign names. Let's talk real quickly.
There you go. You do that while I get a few more details.
I will. I was. Let's talk the Swedish Championships. This was an A tier out of Örebro, Sweden. And Henrik Hagman shooting a 40 down. He's a 996 rated player. There were a couple 2,000 or 3,000 rated players, so he wasn't necessarily the odds-on favorite. He shoots a 40 down, winning by 1 over Linus Carlson. So he shot 1,002, 1,003, 1,037, 1,007, and then 1,007 in the final. So he had a 5-round event, basically. And I checked, the finals were a full 18 holes, not like a final 9, unless it was the world's longest final 9 where he shot a 50. That would stink. Third place was Johannes Hagberg. Fourth place, Lars Janssen, tied with Anders Svard. So congratulations, guys, taking home, like I said, the winner took home $613. That was the MPO division. In the FBO division, Sophie, this is where I'm gonna mess it up. Bjorlike. Sophie Bjorlike. I think that's not bad. I'm going to go with that. And second place is, it wasn't even close. Sophie shot a +9. Linda Emanuelson shot a +41. So it was like a 30-stroke beatdown. And there's clearly an odds-on favorite in that event. So congratulations to all the women. Hannah Hugoson and Ellen Clarenas. I'm going with that. I think that sounds pretty good. What do you think, Ter?
I would never second guess your pronunciations.
Thank you. I'm gonna go with that. Did you find your results? We can talk about next gen
I
tour.
did. I kept trying to go to the PDGA and then type in next gen, and it was just listed under NGT, so next gen wasn't coming up. So I want to give these guys their props. A gentleman, and I say this all the time, I love Junior Worlds. I love that it exists. I love AM Worlds. I love seeing our up and coming players, because obviously not only are they up and coming, and I think then there's that much more of a backstory to them when we see them moving into the pro ranks, but then just getting to know them, getting to know their game, getting to know their weaknesses or their strong suits, and then seeing them develop both as players, but then also as humans and as interviewees. Like, there's so many cool aspects to seeing players that are more than just our top 10 or top 20 males and females in the pro division. And so for those reasons, I really love being at the events. I love golf, but seeing all of those things transpire at these other events. And I think back to Worlds, and I think back to my experience at AM Worlds, where I saw someone like an Andrew Cornwell, and I watched him. I filmed him for a number of shots as he was in the top couple of cards. And then, fast forward a week, and now I'm seeing him performing really well at this next gen premier event. And again, it just builds all of that history and that just the overall relationship. So I see Andrew this weekend. He's rated 977, and he ultimately comes away with the win by a 3-stroke. So he takes the 3-stroke win for the event. Joe Bibble takes second at 157 or 26 under par. Andrew Wallen takes third. Kyle Klein, who's, I think he said 16, and this kid has just a tremendous future. I think all these up-and-comers, of course, have a great future, but to see Kyle Klein at the age of 16 and to watch the poise and the confidence and the patience that he exhibited during the 18 holes I watched him play, like, there's just nothing but a great future for him.
Was it reminiscent of an iMac or a Barella type? We saw them at AM Worlds a couple of years ago, and that's about the age they were.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if there's necessarily a specific person I would tie him to, but just knowing that I see how solid his game is, to see the confidence that he has. And when you watch pros for so long, you just assume everything inside the circle is going in. And to see any competitors not that aren't our top pros, and to see who does and who doesn't have that stroke or that confidence inside the circle is always kind of interesting. I mean, I'll say there's a little bit more, being at AM Worlds, being at this event, there's a little bit more like, well, I mean, this isn't a gimme for sure, but seeing how your top performers, of course, are also usually solid putters. And one thing that stuck out for me was just Kyle's putting. He went through a routine every time, and I think almost every putt he threw right into the center of the chains. Like I said, carrying out his routine, and just a real confident player. And again, the age of 16, he came over, I want to say, from Michigan. I think it was Grand Rapids, Michigan, he said, or he's listed as Wyoming, Michigan, but came over from Michigan. Maybe he played at the Grand Rapids qualifier, and bright future for that guy. And then rounding out the top 5 was Rob McNeil. Watched him play as well during the finals. So all very cool. So that, of course, those were your top division. In the next division, we had Justin Smart, Eric Meadows, Brandon Scott were your top 3 finishers there. And then Steven Schrenk, Nick Tetrault, and Justin Taylor were your next 3. And I think there was just one woman. I believe her name was Gretchen. I'm not seeing her on the list off, but I believe I talked to her, met her, and we saw just one woman out there competing. Dave was telling me that as the next gen is expanding over into Europe, that there was actually a very loud, we'll say, bark about, like, you need to offer women's divisions, otherwise support your tour at all unless you're offering women. And then he talked about the floodgates opening as to how many women then came out and signed up and played, which is awesome. So very cool to see. I want to thank Jay and Deb over at the flight center, over at the course at Lemon Lake. If you ever get a chance, there's 4 courses there, or 5 or 6, depending which tee pads you want to consider different courses. It's been used in the 2010 Worlds, the 2013 Worlds, the Tim Selinsky, and of course this event. It's a great facility. There's a ton of golf, and there's a pro shop on site, and Jay and Deb are doing everything they can to make it a good experience for everyone. So that's kind of my full-blown spiel on it. And it was awesome. It was really cool. I'm excited also. This might be the first time ever, Johnny, where I shot video with the sole intention of handing it to someone else. And there's a weird...
It probably feels nice. You're like, I'm done. No one has to wait for me.
In some ways it feels nice. In some ways it feels nice, but in some ways it also feels like just this kind of weird pressure, like, oh yeah, I want this. Do I want this to be extra good? So their edit is extra easy, or the footage looks extra,
Sure.
It's just shot really well. So because when you edit, you always kind of know what you have, and then you know what you're working with, and it makes it really easy. But to hand off footage, you're right though. It also felt really good just to say, here, take it. Good luck with that. So. Thank you. Like I said, everyone in Indiana, thank you to all the participants. Lots of great people out there this weekend. Lots of great spotters. Chainsaw, I met him this weekend. So many good people doing a lot of hard work over there. And we have a lot of support. SmashBoxx has a lot of support. The Disc Golf Guy channel has a lot of support. And we really, really genuinely appreciate it. So thank you guys so much.
Well, that's great.
That was the next gen update.
I'm happy to hear it. All right, let's talk about some juniors. There was the United States Junior Disc Golf Championships. This was actually, we don't normally talk a lot about B tiers, which is technically what this was, but this is an up-and-coming event. This is kind of new. I wanted to just quickly run through some of the winners in some of the divisions. Junior under 18, which had 22 people. We see Alden Harris take that down. Juniors under 15, Evan Scott. Junior girls under 15, Lily Marr. Juniors under 12, Luke Taylor. Junior girls under 12, Lily Ruthin. Juniors under 10, Jai Babajos. Did I mess that one up? Sorry, Jai. Junior girls, Ava Meyer. Juniors under 8, Finn Eder. Finn, maybe it's because my son has a kid named Finn in his class, but Finn sounds like a name for someone who's like 8 years old. I think it's perfect. I don't know why. I don't know what he's going to do when he gets older, but ultimately Finn sounds like a great 8-year-old name. Junior girls under 8, Addison Lowry, and juniors under 6 years old, less than 6, Caleb Silly, Cilley. So maybe it's Siley. I'm going to go Silly. Playing 3 rounds. That's an accomplishment in and of itself for someone under 6 going 3 rounds. So congratulations to all those juniors. This, I believe this was run by Kids Disc Golf, Disc Golf Kids. What is it? Yeah.
Kids Disc Golf, yep.
Thank you. Kids Disc Golf. So if you want to go out and support, it is www.usjdgc.com.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to say, Chris Young had reached out to me, and I'm not sure if that got lost. I think that came possibly while I was in transit today or yesterday. He had reached out asking if we could give some more details or specifics about the event. And Chris is always online. He's always been out there as a very supportive Smashy. And I'm not sure if you're out there right now, Chris. If you have more details, we'd be glad to give them to you. He says he'd love to shoot over some info for the USJDGC for next week's podcast, if you think you have enough time to touch on it. The kids and families loved it, and so did the entire event staff. So maybe if we have some more, a quick synopsis or a rundown that we could provide next week, Chris and crew, we'd be glad to read it off for you.
Yeah, that would be
very
great.
Cool.
We have a lot. We are getting into, and I think I've been saying this for like 6 weeks, we're getting into the really hot part of not just the weather, but the disc golf. There was, I think, 7 A tiers this weekend, and we got the Pro Tour event coming up, and then we've got the MVP Open coming up, and then we've
Pro Masters Worlds,
and then we've got Pro
like
Worlds.
Some of, yeah.
It's there's so much golf coming up. So we're going to talk real quickly about the Lake Superior Open presented by Northern Lights Disc Golf.
This just in, our cameraman said his second flight. Holy cow! This is podcast news breaking.
Exclusive.
His second flight Looks like that was delayed. So he's not going to miss it. And he'll arrive at 12:05 my time. So
you get to get up.
I get to go to the airport
at midnight, which for you isn't that late. You're a night owl as it is. But it's not what you want to do, but it's not out of your wheelhouse as far as the times you're normally awake.
There's a lot of things I don't want to do.
I know. Lake Superior Open.
All right, go on.
No surprise. Kale LaVisca taking this home. I think he's won this like 27 times. I don't know. He wins everything in the Midwest.
I think it's only existed like 2 years, but yeah.
And I think last year it might have been Alex that won. But still, Kale wins everything around here. I just assume that it's his 27th win every time. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to Kale. Taking second was Noah Meinsma. Third, Travis Karshnick. Jason Blake and Ben Kroll tied for fourth. So congratulations, guys. This is here in the state of Wisconsin. Superior. It's way up at the top. If you're way up here, if you're a Wisconsin person.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Tip of your finger.
There was likely more Minnesota representation than Wisconsin because if you're not familiar with the geography, as Johnny just pointed to his hand.
It's like 2 hours from the Twin Cities or something.
It is way, way north. So it is... from the Milwaukee area where Johnny and I are in, for instance, you're talking 5-6 hours or something like that. So there's a lot more Minnesota people that are likely to come over.
You need to actually go over an ice wall, and there's wildings up there. It's kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So Open Women, Ellen Widboom shoots a 15 over, beating Sada Volt and Elizabeth Emerson. So congratulations, Ellen, on the win. Moving on, we are going to quickly talk about the Pittsburgh Flying Open. 48 Open. It's an A tier. Nathan Queen winning $920. He beat Andrew Fish. It was actually a tie. So Nathan appears to have won in a playoff, shooting 1054, 1031, 1036, and a finals of 954. He lost 7 strokes to Andrew on that final in the finals, which was, if I hover over it, does it tell me? It doesn't tell me that for finals. It sounds like it's a 9-hole. You lose 7 strokes to somebody and then still win in a tie. Awesome. Congratulations, Nathan. Moving on to the women, Paige Bjerkes. I know that name.
Nice.
$260. Yeah, Paige taking it home, beating Tiger Borth, Sandy Hendel, Missy Gannon, and Chelsea Carl. So congratulations to Paige Bjerkes. Is Paige at Ledgestone this week? Is she going to be there?
She is, I believe, is she on her featured card tomorrow? Come on now.
She might be.
I believe she's even on the featured card with us tomorrow. I can check in with our friends at UDisc Live. Maybe she's not the featured card, but
maybe she's one of the featured.
She is in. She is on our featured card.
Okay, she's
Paige Pierce. Spoilers, guys. Paige Pierce, Paige Bjerkes, Katrina Allen, and Wisconsin's Haley King. So that is our featured women's card tomorrow that you're going to see.
You are in for some fun golf watching those 4 women.
Yeah.
Haley King is a pleasure to watch. She throws a mile. She's got this great putt, as I was talking about at Silver Cup. Paige Bjerkes has been on a pretty good tear. She's one of those golfers. I love watching Paige play because I like watching her throw. And I think if she could dedicate more time to golf and get rid of that crazy school thing, I think she could be one of our top 5 women golfers, hands down.
I think she's okay. We'll just move on. Never mind.
Are you saying she already is?
No, just fine. Haley's fine.
I'm talking about Paige Bjerkes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking. Okay.
No, Haley's in like high school yet. Haley King's still in high school.
I don't think she. Exactly.
She can't quit school.
Haley, I
don't want anyone to quit school. I'm joking about Paige Bjerkes quitting school, but Paige, I think if she were to dedicate more time to golf, she could be one of our top 5 women on tour. It's just that she has other obligations. No, I'm not talking about Haley. So
I was going to say, I don't think you should be encouraging Haley to drop out of high school to play more golf.
So.
And that's where I thought you were going.
I don't drop it. I don't. No. All right, let's talk about the Titan Open presented by Discraft. Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Tournament director is Matt Schlalbach. Nico LaCastro. Is it Schlebach? Thank you. Nicola Castro and Jordan Castro. So the Castro boys tied at 30 down. And Nico wins this one, taking home $1,500. Sorry about that. I was reading something. Jordan Castro, $1,100. Nico, it looks like, Jordan had him by one stroke after the first round. Then it was tied. Not tied, but they shot the same for second round. And then Nico picked up one stroke on the third round and then ends up taking it down, obviously, in a playoff. So congratulations to Nico. I went Nico, Jordan, Jacob Sanders, Kevin Jones, Anthony Barella, a name we're not used to hearing on tour very much. And then we see a bunch of people names that we see tend to be locally. Adam Hammes, AJ Risley, Michael Johansson, who are bigger names, all getting ready for Ledgestone. So I'm really excited for this weekend. I think we're going to see a lot. Open women, I think finally getting her feet back under her. Lisa Fakis back on tour. Shootings 948, 936, 926, winning $700. Followed up by Kaylee Campbell and Sarah Gilpin. That's all I got. I'm not reading any more events. I'm done. Too many A tiers to cover. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I'm good.
Well, it was, I know I saw a post by Jordan saying that he's, when he first started, he very much had looked up to Nicola Castro. And so obviously it was exciting and an honor just to tie him and to, go to battle with him this weekend. And then there was a release of a video during the playoff in which a putt that looks like it could have stayed in, and I know we could argue all week long, a putt that could have possibly stayed in, ultimately didn't. And so it was that much more heartbreaking, I guess you could say, for Jordan, as he lost in that fashion. But you could also say he could have hit one less tree somewhere else during the weekend and the playoff wouldn't have happened. But nonetheless, definitely heartbreaking to see is really the point. So it looked like it was a good battle between Castro and Castro, the Castro boys. Not sure they can be referred to that way. I want to recognize and thank the login is just Disc Golf. So thank you for the super chat and supporting us here during our podcast. So Disc Golf is the login. You are awesome, sir or ma'am. So
what else? Do you have any other information, Terry?
With just getting to the Ledgestone this afternoon, I'll say I don't even feel like I have not been immersed whatsoever. We saw the skins match, which was exciting, and it was a lot of fun to be at again this year. And then I know Nate had stuff going on. I know there was a demo or a clinic that was going on by a couple of Discraft sponsored players. And then I don't have it in front of me. I should pull it up. Just the calendar of events, so to speak, for this weekend is ridiculous. There's just stuff going on. It just feels like every minute there's something going on for people to be entertained this particular week. And I really quickly did want to, I want to look at the event schedule. So just to name off a few things. So today, what is today? Wednesday. So they had, they had disking downtown in downtown Peoria. They also had a press conference that took place this morning. I think I saw, was it Turner, Wysocki, and maybe Macbeth, all part of the press conference at some point. I think I saw a picture from that. The Flex C tier was taking place out at Sunset Hills. There was pro check-in and spectator badge check-in. So there's a Discraft mini tournament that was at Sunset Hills tonight. That was a Flex start. There was the Players Clinic that I talked about. There was the Champs Exhibition. So that was all going on today. Tomorrow, of course, we have our MPO and FPO. And then they have, looks like the pro shops are open, a mini Fly Mart at Sunset Hills. There's a $10,000 hole-in-one contest at Sunset Hills that I think is taking place tomorrow. Holy cow, that's tomorrow. And there's also a hole-in-one contest taking place at the course, Eureka, tomorrow. And I believe that if somebody gets a hole-in-one on hole 17 tomorrow at the Eureka course, I think they're giving away a car. I don't know. It's crazy.
Probably Heinel's
so
car.
Also tomorrow. Yeah, it's one of his old ones. Also a disc golf festival, of course, the Pro Tour Festival at Sunset Hills. Ice Cream Social, St. Jude Dunk Tank, putting competition, and again, the Disc Golf Pro Tour Festival tournament. So that's all going on tomorrow. And then all of that stuff and then some for the next like 3 or 4 days. It's just craziness here.
I want to put you on the spot here, Terry. Which pro would earn the most money in the dunk tank? Would it be?
I mean, I think a lot of people really enjoy dunking Nate Heinold, the TD himself.
He is a pro player. Do you think it would be? Are you? I know. Do you think it would be more along the lines of someone that tends to be more of a villain on the course? You could say, don't get mad at me, but like a Drew Gibson or a Nicola Castro, people that like to get all worked up about things. Or do you think it's someone more like a Paul Macbeth that everyone like, I got to dunk one of the champs, or Ricky Wysocki, or someone like Kale who everybody just loves? And it would be fun to dunk. Who do you think is going to would earn the most money at the dunk tank?
I'll say this. I remember seeing the dunking a year or two ago, and I think Nate was one of the most popular. I feel like someone like a Big Germ is just asking for it. A guy that dishes it out from time to time, that thinks he's funny. I think people really like the idea of dunking someone like him. So he could be a good fundraiser. I haven't thought about who else, but he comes to mind immediately as someone that I think needs to be in there, maybe the entire time. Maybe he gets hypothermia. I don't know. But there's some ideas there. I'm not sure who they have lined up. Usually Nate's really good, and so are the players, about, I guess, volunteering a little bit of their time to go in there. Because like you said, there is something special about saying, hey, I got to dunk Wysocki, or I got to dunk a Josh Anthon, or Nate Sexton, or whomever. So, wow, Cody B, thank you for the super chat. $20
thank
for
you,
the
Cody.
Super chat. We really appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
All right,
Cody,
some other PDGA news we can get to.
Woohoo!
They're still looking for responses for the disc golf internet survey. About a week ago, they had 9,000 responses. So let's keep putting in your input.
George Williams, $10 super chat.
Thank you, George. ESPN, there was a chat, I think it was Steve Hill. There was 10 questions with John, I'm going to mess up his name, Buchigros. I don't have ESPN anymore. So unless it's Keith Olbermann and or Stuart Scott, I don't know. Anyway, the one who, the gentleman who ultimately called the Macbeth perfect round. So they talked to him about some disc golf. So that's out on the PDGA site. Go ahead and please take a look at that. That's right from Steve Hill.
To me, this mentally at least was a serious talking point for me when I read the article. Cody B, what are you doing? Simmer down. Another $25 super chat? Cody, thank you.
I mean,
hello.
All I know is that George can't let that fly. I mean, honestly.
No, George. No, seriously. And I'll give a lot of credit. Our cameraman, who I also brought into town today, as we picked him up and came into town. He used one word, and I'm going to repeat it. But when I read that article, a lot of things went through my mind. And if you don't know what we're talking about, again, go out to pdga.com, as Johnny just referenced. It sounded like, I think he maybe emailed a few questions. I don't think he had a phone call with the gentleman from ESPN. It sounds like it went back and forth via email. However it happened. And Johnny Bigfoot, thank you for the super chat. Let me ask, did you read the actual responses, Johnny?
I skimmed through them. Yes, basically him saying that that he loves competition and he's no good at throwing frisbee himself, so he's never personally done it.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. And this isn't going to necessarily be popular, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a popular guy. I think he was brutally honest, and he just shot straight from his hip. And the problem with that is, for disc golfers, is it's not what we want to hear. We want this guy from ESPN to be like, oh my gosh, I love disc golf. It's so great. Look at what's happening. Yeah, we're going to embrace it. We love it at ESPN. Like, those are all the things you'd love to hear, but those aren't the reality. And this guy shot straight from the hip. You could say he maybe sounded flippant, or maybe sounded arrogant, or maybe sounded like he didn't take us serious. I don't think he does. And I'm not. I'm okay with that. Like,
we can take ourselves seriously, but we have no. There is nothing that forces anybody else to take us seriously. We are not a big sport yet. We don't draw the eyeballs and he was even, the majors do.
And he was even kind of asked if do you see this? Do you think we'll be a big sport? And he kind of, in so many words, in my opinion, I read it as no. I don't think it will be. And guess what? As much as we all of us, and our super chatters, and you and me, and the thousands that do watch, we think we're pretty damn awesome.
We are.
We're maybe just not as cool as we think we are to the masses.
No, I will say that. Yeah.
I just think there's a self-realization that too many of us disc golfers don't have, because we are all so passionate. We talk about it, and we love it, and we live it, and we breathe it, and we broadcast it, and we consume it, and we play it, and it is our life. So of course we're all very particular to it, and we're all very drawn to it, and we take it all very personally. I mean, the very first response, whoever it was, the very first response on the PDGA page basically told this guy to go, stick his head in the sand and bite off, or whatever I can say here. Told him to get lost, and he got very worked up and very mad. And I get it. I love disc golf as much as the next guy, but I also, throughout many, many years, I feel like I've come to terms with, we may not hit that breaking point. I don't think we're going to be mainstream. I'm going to say that.
I don't think we necessarily will either. I think, I've always said, if we are, it's going to be by some miracle of a player, or it's going to take something like it's going to take something like poker. I mean, a lot of people play, just as a lot of people played poker. Everybody had their weekend games and things like that, and we have a bunch of weekend warriors. It took the Chris Moneymaker years ago to be kind of the nobody that won the world championships, and it became a huge thing. That's kind of what we're gonna have to see. And the problem is, well, poker is it's a skill sport. It's not an athletic sport. You're not gonna get a nobody to come up and beat Paul McBeth. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Or a Ricky, or an Eagle, or Simon, whomever. You're not getting that, because it's an athletic sport. You need to have those skills. So I don't know what it's going to take from us. Like, the Philo Albatross, a huge ace at the exact right time.
But even when those things do happen,
somebody doing it in a Pepsi commercial, someone seeing a major movie star, like a major movie star, not some guy on the CW.
Paul Walker. Sorry.
Yeah. But something like that to maybe help push it. All those would help, but where's
our level? Where's the bar of success? What is that going to mean anyway?
It doesn't exist. That's a made up bar for everybody. That bar of success. SmashBoxx is a success. Guess what? We're staying in business. We're able to push live disc golf out to people. That's a success. Would I love us to be a bigger success? Of course, but disc golf. To a lot of people, disc golf won't be a success until we're on ESPN. I think that's, or NBC or ABC or whatever. That is what success is to some people. And I don't really ever see that happening. Or until we're featured regularly, like an actual segment on ESPN, not just hey, Paul McBeth shot an 18 down. Hey, this person got an ace. It's on top 10. I don't know if we're ever going to see it. Honestly, not in my lifetime, not in any lifetime. There's too many eyeballs on our major sports right now. Just like I don't think spike ball will ever be a huge success. I mean,
exactly, and that might be a great example.
It's a big niche sport. Like, it's fun to play. Bags. It's not a huge success. It's a great niche sport. So
hold on one second. Hello, what? Yeah,
I'm going to mute Terry while he talks to that gentleman. Anyway, that's kind of what I say is that's kind of what I say when it comes to something. Yeah, if the Kardashians started playing or something along those lines, that could help out. You know?
But the question is, who if Kim and Khloe and Kris and all of the Kardashians and Kanye all went out and played tomorrow? Like seriously, like they went down to La Mirada or whatever course, to go sign the petition for La Mirada. They go and play. Then what? What happens?
It picks
then
up.
We're success?
No, that in and of itself isn't success. I'm saying something like that could spur like a big 5-year push of disc golf. I mean, it could be more than an uptick because they have such a big, as long as they weren't making fun of it, as long as they were taking it seriously. They go out and throw some plastic around and they make some jokes about it. We're taking a step back. It has to be taken seriously, something along those lines. And again,
and I want everyone to understand, I'm not clearly I'm in the disc golf media business. I am not suggesting that we're not growing, we're not improving, that the sport's not getting bigger. I think we just need to take a step back and for every individual, realize what you consider a success and what you consider worthwhile or what we really need. And you're right, everyone's going to have a different barometer. Everyone's going to have a different level that says, okay, if we make it here, this is considered good or bad or successful or whatever. I mean, we see all these references in pop culture, in TV and movies. We see it in the background at movies. We've seen all sorts of different references directly and indirectly to disc golf and sitcoms, all of it. But are we going to be a cornerstone or one of the core 4 events that people, base their entire year around, like baseball, basketball, football, and hockey? No. And I think you're going to lead a very disappointing and miserable life if that's all you think the pinnacle is. And again, that's not because I don't believe in the sport and love it with every fiber of my being. I just think we have to manage expectations and also just figure out what you really consider a success. Because to me, if there's 10 million kids playing it in schools, but it's not on ESPN that night, I'll take the kids. To me, that's a bigger success. And everybody's answer is different.
I think getting our world championships on not necessarily weekly, we're not going to see, I don't think we're ever going to see a week by week, hey, the Pro Tour is on whatever channel, on Lifetime, on the Hallmark channel. I don't think we're ever going to see that. If we could get the world championships on even like a Spike, I don't think there is Spike TV anymore. I don't have cable, but let's just say a Spike TV, that style of television, that I would say that's a success. If you can talk to someone who normally might not necessarily know who our world champion is and get them to know, oh yeah, I heard about that. Like I know about Chris Moneymaker. I played a little bit of poker before, I played a little after. I know a couple of the key names. I couldn't tell you the past 5 or 6 years anyone who's won the World Series of Poker. But if there's a small time when we have that uptick that says, oh yeah, that remember when that Wysocki and Macbeth playoff went 7 holes? That was awesome. That's success. And again, that bar is different for everybody. And as long as we're making an upward trajectory, I'm fine. You're fine. We're all fine. We have a version of success. So,
well, someone Mackie D says, I think it'll eventually get bigger than soccer in the U.S. And if you're talking about disc golf, I would disagree, and I'm okay with it. And that's not to be dismissive or pessimistic. I just don't think it will when you're talking about how big soccer is as a global sport. And obviously it's a million times bigger in every other country but ours. But even in our country, it's still really big. I just don't see it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to beat to death like this sport versus that sport, but really what I was getting at also, and to steal our cameraman's word, he said, I feel like his responses were genuine. And I do too. They were genuine. They were straight from the hip. But disc golfers did exactly what I think I did 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. You read his responses and you just become enraged. You're like, this guy just doesn't effing get how cool we are. And here's why. And you want to go post about it and you want to bash him and you want to give him all these examples. He covers lots of big sports. He works for obviously a major sporting news network. And if it's not a blip on his radar, that doesn't mean he's evil. It just means it's something that he's not into. It provides us an opportunity to possibly grow and to teach or help, expand. But it doesn't mean this guy is the devil. He just simply isn't into disc golf yet. And yeah, so it's a great article. At first, I was like, he's not into it. And it made me think how we all wanted him to say, it's awesome, and we're going to see more of it. And that's just not what he said. So I don't think he's a bad person because of it.
That's wonderful. I'm cool, and a lot of people don't see it. So I'm fine with that.
Trust me, some of them are mainly right. So anyway, it's out there. Thanks to Steve Hill. Thanks for the continued backstory of it. I mean, just think about it. We're excited that not only did the Macbeth piece even air, but then we find out how it came, it came. I think we kind of talked with Jonathan about that. And then now for yet another follow-up with this specific anchor giving a few more details to Steve Hill. Like, I think the whole story is fascinating, and I love it, but I'm not sure we need to get our pitchforks out and show up at this guy's house throwing discs at his house just because he doesn't love it. So
the only other big news this week in disc golf really was there was an article put out by Ulta World about the PDGA and whether or not it's time to rethink how amateur divisions are organized. Yeah. Did you read that, Terry?
I kind of skimmed through it, and I'll admit I read a little bias before actually reading the article. I read some of the comments about it. And then I skimmed through the article and just had a really quick glimpse of it, or glance. I generally didn't agree. And I think and real quick, I'll just say our numbers are arbitrary. Everybody always wants to kind of reshuffle and say, well, what if this division went to that number and this division? To me, they're all arbitrary along with the names. Like, if advanced goes to 930, or I'm sorry, intermediate goes to 930, and then we shift from 930 to 970, who cares? Like, it's 5 points. And maybe that wasn't the full, obviously that wasn't the full premise of the article, but at very quick review, it didn't do anything for me.
I agree. I did the same thing. I skimmed over it. Tyler Schrock is the author. He is an MVP sponsored player. And he had an interview on the Upshot podcast, one of the other disc golf podcasts that's out there. I don't know where you can find it. Don't look for it. It honestly reminded me of the way it kind of felt like he wanted to go back to the way the sport was when I started. 3 amateur, advanced, pro. And then maybe like a new novice division that you play 2 or 3 times until you can get into the amateur field. That's kind of how I read it. I was like, you want to go back to the way it was 15 years ago, and not so much the MA1, MA2, MA3, MA4, however you want to say it. You want to condense it. My favorite comment, some of them, was by MTL with Robert Leonard, who basically said all the stuff you're asking for can be done. The PDGA gives you flexibility to do all of this if you ask them. Any event, you can run a ratings-based event. You can run, it doesn't have to have sex-based divisions. It can be, you can not have age-based divisions. You don't have to, you could run a strictly ratings-based event, which I think would be kind of fun and cool, but they haven't taken off. We haven't seen hardly any of them. Correct. It would be fun to watch, Paige Pierce, who's a 970 rated player, go up against some of the 970 rated men. And for someone like me who's, right now I think I'm rated just under 900. But in general, rather than playing Advanced Masters, play where I belong with other 900 or to 930 rated golfers, as opposed to limiting. He just feel. I think the whole point was he feels like we're dividing too much. Like, how come there's 4 or 6 AM masters and 15 advanced players or amateur players? We need to condense these fields. He didn't want to really touch on the age-based stuff, but I think I kind of read between the lines of the article and the interview, and I put the two together, and it kind of feels that way moving out. I don't necessarily think he means that about the junior divisions, but the age-based and the ratings-based is more along the lines of what he's particularly looking at, I believe. So
and I get it, and yeah. I think you can summarize by saying a lot of people, there's a lot of people in one camp that say, hey, we like all the different options, we like all the different age bases, we love men versus women and all the different divisional breakdowns, and there's some people that say there's way too many and we should have 1 or 2 divisions and that's it. And you continue to hear arguments when people say something like, I might be rated 9, 20, 20, but I'm 53 years old. So I don't want to go play with 920 rated intermediate players, even though that's where my ratings could put me. I don't want to go play with them because I don't find it enjoyable to spend an entire Saturday afternoon or entire Saturday playing with 3 other 20-year-olds. And so therefore playing with 6 or 8 guys that are in my age range of 50 to 60 or 50 to 55, whatever the case might be. Therefore, that to me is a little bit more fun. So I understand that argument as well, because clearly a 53-year-old on a course and a 20-year-old on a course, not that they can't be besties and have plenty to talk about, but generally you're going to have different conversations than if you're, playing with people, people that are your similar age range. I mean, that's one example. Now, here's one thing that's kind of on the fringe of this whole conversation. I think he touched on it very, very briefly. I would be absolutely in favor of completely either abolishing and getting rid of divisional names in other than the letter casing, or at least renaming them. And here's why I say it, because I do believe that the terms novice and recreational and advanced and even masters, just the term masters, are somewhat confusing when compared to some other sports. And somebody can holler, I'm sure they will. They always tell you when you're wrong in the internet. But I believe once you reach a certain level, whether it's in chess or pool or in darts, I think masters means something completely different than, and it's irrelevant based on
some
your name,
sports,
your age.
In some sports, but
exactly.
in other sports, masters does mean the older divisions, the mature divisions.
Okay.
So I've got no problem with that particularly. I could get behind your advanced, novice, rec, because I've always said novice, rec, amateur. I could tell you those 3 and you'd be like, well, which one do I play? I don't know. What's the lowest one there?
Which one's higher or lower? Exactly.
Yeah, and so in that aspect, I could kind of agree. And I wouldn't not have a problem flat out eliminating maybe one of the divisions if it came down to it. If you twisted my arm and said, hey, we're going to stop offering novice, whatever. I don't even know the difference. We're going to stop offering novice. We're going to go rec. Is that anything
You're
under?
You're about to learn it with your rating. So.
You're right. If you told me, hey, everyone under 870 plays one division, 870 to 930 plays another, 930 to 980 or whatever, you want to adjust those and get rid of one division, I could get behind that. It's not that big of a deal to me. But ultimately, most of what he wanted in this article can be done. It's just a matter of doing it. He also made the argument about the amateur divisions should be lower to almost no payout. I could get behind that as well. If you wanted to tell me, hey, guess what? You're playing in the advanced division. You have a lower entry fee. It's going to be close. You're going to get a player's pack, and the top 2 are going to get trophies. Done. Everyone gets a player's pack, and the top 2 get trophies. I'm completely cool with that. It's even being a person who can play in multiple divisions now. I could play in Am Masters. I can play in Advanced. I can play in Pro Masters if I want. I don't care. I would be completely cool with that. And maybe take half that money, put into the Pro Division, the other half goes into the TD's pocket. I'm good with that.
I would love to see the names changed, or like I said, or just get rid of them. Now, it could be, and another reason I say that is, at least if you say and reference them in terms of PDGA, you have MA1s, MA2s, MA3s, MA4s. You know, someone could say, okay, the MA4 division is a lesser skilled division than MA1, so on and so forth. There's at least a consistent breakdown where you could always just point to it and there's a reference point. But when you bring in terms like recreational, advanced, intermediate, novice, those are all can be, whether it's misleading or confusing, whatever you want to deem it, I could get behind that. And I know there's reasons and logic and history behind all of those words and those terms. And I just feel like as we continue to grow and evolve, we could come up with different names for those. Or just like I said, just strictly stick to the codes. So maybe there's a little less confusion. Because if you said to someone, hey, you're going to play in your first ever tournament this weekend, and they called you up and said, yeah, I'm playing my first ever tournament. Should I play novice or recreational or what?
The first question everyone asks is, well, what do you usually shoot out here? That's the first question everyone asks. Well, you're like, I don't know, I shoot like some even or 2 down maybe. Well, then you should definitely be playing this event or this division. Not true, and I hate it, but I get it.
So I'm totally good with like we said, I think that's where we were going with is if we were to rename them, that's fine. As for having more divisions, I don't think we need more divisions. Like you said, could I be okay with a few less divisions? I could certainly be persuaded to that. There's a lot of research and science and details though behind certain age groups, developments. I know this conversation was brought up regarding just Junior Worlds a few weeks ago. What's the difference? How much of a difference is there physically and mentally between a 6-year-old versus an 8-year-old versus a 9-year-old? And obviously there's an individualistic approach, but then just at your scientific standards, how much of a difference is there from one age group to the next? And how much does the PDGA, need to, or should they fall in line with some of those things? And I think, and I feel like, Christy, maybe, and this is a soapbox I've been on for many years. I think one of the biggest problems we have, and some of the biggest complaints that therefore are a result of it, is that people don't play within their ratings to begin with. And I've said this for probably 10 years. If you're rated 905 and you sign up in Advanced and you get beat by 22 strokes, guess what? You played in the wrong division. Okay.
Maybe.
Unless you, well, and let me, and I will clarify that.
If you complain about it, you played in the wrong division.
Unless there's something that, else you were trying to achieve. But if you lost by 22 strokes and you played in a two-round tournament and the guy that was rated 945 played 20 strokes above his rating for 2 or 3 rounds and then ultimately beat you by 21 strokes, he's not a sandbagger, you're a sore loser, okay? So it starts by playing in your correct division. And this happens all the time. The 873 rated guy goes and plays intermediate and loses by 22 strokes. Oh, what a sandbagger. No, if you played rec, you would have probably been competitive. You may or may not even have won, but you would have at least been maybe competitive. And this happens every single weekend. It's so infuriating, and it happens all over the place all the time. And I think it's been going on for many years.
I think a lot of that would be eliminated if we saw more events that just did a nice players pack and a trophy or two, because then great, you lose by 22. I think a lot of it is, oh gosh, that guy beat me by 12. I took 4th. I only got $22. That guy won. He got like 56. That's not fair. And I think the money, putting the money in it, leads to more stuff like that. And there's all sorts of examples about other sports that for amateurs, don't hand out prizes, or they do, an entry thing and then you get a trophy, which is, I think, more along the lines of what I'd like to see. Of course, like I said, everybody feels better when they get something, and that's usually a player's pack. It's why GBO is so beloved, because one of the things that everybody loves is the player's pack. It's not like Bowling Green back in the day, where if you won, you took home $700 in funny money. It doesn't happen anymore. Maybe you get a basket these days.
Well, I'll say, and it was exactly, and I meant to mention earlier, Cool One had said that the next gen tour very much embraces the ratings-based concept, the Knights, the Gladiators, so on and so forth, having those different divisions. And you saw a lot of different age groups out there this weekend. You did see the 53-year-olds playing with the 20-year-olds, and they were within a few points of their rating. And I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm just saying a lot of times some people like the age-protected divisions because they enjoy it. Now, if the event or the series makes it very clear from the get-go, hey, we don't care if you're 90 or if you're 19. If you're rated 920, you're playing in this division, or here's where you're eligible to play. So
I'd like to see,
but yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I'd like to see that more. I would like to see less age protected divisions and more ratings. We'll say ratings protected divisions, because of that reason. When you see mixing up players like that, and if we need an age restricted tournament, I'm all for it. You want to go age restricted? So guess what? There's an event where you play with a bunch of other 65-year-old dudes. That's great. But if we'll just take the Wisconsin tour. If the Wisconsin tour told me tomorrow, hey, next year we're done with age protected, you are going to play in the advanced field or the amateur field or MA12 or whatever I qualify for these days. Cool. Because it'll create bigger fields, but is that necessarily what we want is another question. And we don't need to get into it. I think we've harped on this a lot.
Yeah, there's just so many different ways this conversation goes. And me being an event director for 20 plus years, I've seen a lot of things, concepts come and go, and some stuff sticks and some doesn't. And someone even said, if they were to get rid of some of the age protected divisions, some of these people may be chased out, and they may say, hey, that no longer interests me. I like playing with Esther, and I guess I can't think of names. I like playing with the same 4 to 6 other people within my age range,
Esther
for
and
a number
Gertrude.
of reasons. Exactly. And all these other people, that's why I go to tournaments. And if you take that away, those opportunities might go away. I mean, and that's just it. Another challenge we have is everybody plays a tournament for a different reason. Some play for the player pack, some play for the trophy, some play just purely for competition. Some people have to rub together, I think, like 3 nickels to try and come up with the money to play. And some people don't care if they blow $150 on a tournament, and they don't ever plan to see a dime back from that in any way. And so their reason for playing is very different than the guy that, just got done making $8.25 an hour and saved up all week so that they could come play, which is totally fine as well. Everyone has a different end goal when they're playing in the tournaments too. It makes it really tough.
Yeah.
I don't know why we don't just cater to everybody.
Well, we can. Like say, Northwoods, I'm playing Pro Masters for one reason, because they play in the afternoon on Sunday. So I don't have to wake up early on Saturday and play. It's so I can play the afternoon flight, not because I think I'm going to compete very well, not for any particular reason, but so I can play with a few people I know, and so I can play in the afternoon, and that's a whole nother reason. All right.
Yeah, but doesn't that backfire when we play on Sunday morning? You don't get to play in the afternoon on Sunday morning.
No, I think we play in the afternoon on Saturday, I believe.
I know, that's my point though. So you're saying you want to not play in the afternoon one day, but you have to play in the afternoon the other day.
It's more fun because everyone kind of hangs out, and we can do the whole night thing.
Anyway, all right. The other big PDGA news, aside from all of that, I think it was after our podcast, right? Like, they've announced the new board members.
They did.
Holy cow. And then some drama that came from that? Are you kidding?
Oh, if Terry, if there's not drama, there's not news.
Oh, and then there's no us. So
That's a good point. All right. Actually, I think we did mention last week. We did mention the winners.
Did we?
Yeah, we mentioned.
I don't feel like we did.
We did. We mentioned Robert Decker and Justin Menichelli and Mike Sullivan winning. What we didn't, and we also mentioned Kevin McCoy stepping down. But what we didn't mention is that what was it? Who was the gentleman that Trevor Harbolt, who. So now that Kevin McCoy has stepped down from the board, our bylines, our rules, our regulations, what everybody agreed upon is that the board will at this point nominate and vote on a replacement for him, for Kevin.
Okay.
And that's going to happen at the fall summit, I believe. Right? I think that can happen in October or something, September, October, somewhere around there.
It's usually October.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we had a few people, like a Murder Mike and Trevor. I don't necessarily know if it was Trevor particularly, but get all up in arms as to why they didn't just put Trevor in. Like, oh, hey, Kevin stepped down. He was next in line. He had the next amount of votes. Put him in, right? Just get him in there. And unfortunately, that's not how our rules and regulations and bylaws work. We need to wait. And then we had Rebecca Hall Duffy, our former board president, right? She stepped in and said, well, in the past, we've usually just taken the person with the next amount of votes. And that was, I think, construed as we should just have Trevor in there right now. And obviously it comes back to when they're going to elect and when they're going to vote and things like that. And then Trevor kind of said some things that got a little blown out of proportion, and it was a big internet drama that was a lot of fun. Ultimately, we're going to see the board vote on somebody to put them in to replace Kevin at the fall summit. And it might be Trevor. I'm sure he will get.
It could be me.
It's not going to be you. I've already put in a bad word for you.
Good.
Ultimately, they will probably take into account Trevor's votes, but I'm sure there will be other things that will be taken into account too now. So if he does or doesn't get in, it wouldn't surprise me either way. If they said, no, we're not taking you because guess what? Here's your internet history where you spouted off about X, Y, and Z. That's not the type of person. And they would never come out and say that. They just wouldn't say anything, but you could probably read between the lines that might be one reason. Or if they came in and said, hey, yes, you're interested, you're passionate, you've got, a couple key ideas, sure, try it out. Come on in, we'll see how it works out for you. Either one wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Do you feel like maybe some of his initial knee-jerk reaction to not being voted in was in fact detrimental to the later process?
120%.
And by that, you feel
it kind of sounded like he threw a little fit, and he kind of acted like a little bitch. Like,
wow.
I'm sorry, when you don't get in and you go to social media and you make a big long post about why you didn't and screw this and this is why I want, and he did, and this was his initial post, and I understand being passionate and not, and there were some things he said. He was like, listen, I'm going to keep trying, and he did step it back a little bit, and he was like, listen, as he should, and he said, listen, I'm just passionate. It's what I want to do. I think I can help this organization. And he very well could. He could get in there and be a godsend. But doing what he did right after the results were announced was not the way to do it. And I think he knows that. I hope he knows that. But again, would it surprise me now if they didn't put him in partially because of that? Not at all. I can't think of anybody better. I don't know anybody else that's interested either. Maybe some of the other people.
And that becomes
some of the other people that were on that ballot. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other whether Trevor would be good or bad. I don't know him very well. All I know is what I've seen on social media, and from what I saw on social media, that didn't impress me at first.
Well, and that can be somebody's snapshot, and that's just exactly it. That might be the original or the initial impression of, hey, I didn't get in, and then, oh, I think the system's flawed, or why didn't this happen, or why didn't that happen? And then he immediately had, like we said, this knee-jerk reaction, and then the idea that is obviously should and will get factored into a potential run, whether it's for an election or for an appointment. I think that will also get factored in, kind of like the whole axiom, like you cannot not communicate. No matter what you do, you're putting out some kind of vibe or a message, and that could be good or bad, and whether you're silent or not, or how you take it and how you respond to it, can say a lot of different things. And so I'll be interested to see how that factors in.
And I've got nothing against the guy. I don't know him. And like I said, he could be great.
Sure.
I just am reading what I saw initially and that I didn't care for. And I hope that changes. And that, again, that could be, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We've seen plenty of people, disc golfers, other people, go off on social media, backtrack, and then a couple weeks later, it's something different and they're going off again. It all depends how he presents himself over the next 2 months or 3 months.
Well, and there's whatever. Yeah, and there's certainly no doubt, like you said, and like he said, I don't think his fight is over. I think if he's passionate, which I know that he is, and he really likes the idea of being that player voice, which I know is certainly a platform and a stance that he has, and that will all ring true. If there's enough people that back and believe in what he's saying, even if he's not appointed, there's going to be a new election next year, and he's going to have that opportunity to stand on that same platform and make his inroads in that route. And I certainly fully encourage it and welcome it and would love to see that. I think one of the things, the biggest takeaways for me, though, is, and this is really not particular to him, although we'll use his situation. One of the main complaints or conversations that I think were a result of this was people saying, well, it's only logical that we have an extra spot, therefore it goes to the next highest vote getter. Okay, and there is some very legitimate logic there. I don't care who you are. At face value, that makes perfect sense. It truly does. But let's take it a step further. Let's use some other situations. Let's say there were 3 board positions open, which there were. Let's say there was only 4 candidates. And I'm going to make up some numbers and say, candidate 1 gets 10,000 votes. Candidate 2 gets 10,000 or 9,999 votes. Candidate 3 gets 9,997 votes. And let's say candidate 4, in an extreme case, gets 4 votes. Is that still the next logical person to put in there? Was it not crystal clear that that person didn't have a lot of support? Now, clearly, this does not apply to Trevor. He
was very close.
The difference between 3rd and 4th was just a few hundred votes from my gathering.
500, I think, something like that. Maybe 700.
Whatever. I mean, he clearly wasn't a landslide. But my point is, just the next person doesn't always, in my opinion, make perfect sense. And let's just say Trevor, or in this case, let's say there's 5 people running, 3 people get in, but they go to 4th place, and 4th place says, nah, I don't feel like I got enough support. People clearly don't want me. I'm going to decline. Do they then offer to 5th place? If there was a 5th, a 5th person running? I mean,
it's why we have bylaws.
Just say, well, exactly.
And ultimately, that's what it comes down to, because we want to avoid situations like that. It's why there are rules put in place, and why you just need to just sit and wait. And I know it sucks, and I know people like to get other people riled up, and we're no exception sometimes, but it is, we just have to follow the rules, because if you don't, we have enough problems with people following the rules on the course. Let's not start breaking rules off the course with our sport. Let's we have rules for a reason.
So that was one of my big takeaways. And again, that has almost even nothing to do with Trevor. It is more of a bylaw conversation, along with a procedural conversation, that I just don't agree with the idea of, okay, well, it just goes to the next person. It just goes to the next person, because there could be a lot of practical yet extreme situations where that sounds ludicrous. That just sounds stupid. Like, oh, okay, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, and 4 votes. Well, yeah, let's just put that person in. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So, a kind of a side note, but yet this one is a little bit more particular to Trevor. Trevor very much has run on the platform and the idea and the concept of, we're going, he really wants to speak for the player. He really wants to speak for, he's played for many years. He's been a touring professional for a few years. He's been playing for 27 years, I think he said, kind of like myself, in that neighborhood. And I think he's got a lot of really valuable insights. He has also dabbled in the conversations about players' unions. And I said it kind of jokingly the other day on Facebook, and I'm going to say it again. I hope somebody creates a gosh darn players union just so I can hear people shut the F up about creating a players union. Like, please, someone make it happen just so we can stop saying that's the solution. Heck, go create 5 of them. I don't care. I just want somebody, and I'm not calling out Trevor, because Trevor's kind of joked about it as well. I just want somebody to create one so we can prove just how right or wrong it's been all these years. But I'm sick of that being a lot of people's solutions to fixing all of our problems. Well, we just need a players union. Start one. Somebody start one so you can shut up and quit saying that a players union is going to fix all our problems.
That's why I'm starting a podcast union. I hope you don't mind, Terry. I'm going to unionize myself, and I may or may not go on strike. We'll find out tomorrow.
Good call. Yeah, you absolutely should. So anyway, that's kind of a side note. The one final piece I'll talk about regarding the elections and the board members and all those types of things, I don't think I'm out of line by saying we've seen touring players get involved with the board, and I think it's fair to say some of them have struggled with all of the additional roles and responsibilities that being on the board brings. We've seen Avery Jenkins on the board, who I know did some really good stuff. We've seen Kelly on the board. We've seen Dave Felberg on the board. We've seen up until recently, Kevin McCoy, who's has tons of wins, but maybe not quite the touring prowess that those guys have had. I think it would be an interesting conversation with any and all of those gentlemen. I don't think we've any touring women on the board. All of those gentlemen to say, okay, you all came in with a touring pro perspective. What do you feel like was what was your big platform or your big mission or goal when coming onto the board? And just how easy was it to fulfill whenever it was the time that you exited the board? Because I think all 4 of them will tell you, and those are just 4 that come to mind, that that the task was maybe a little taller than they realized. And I think a lot of people have this idea of, well, and not just work, but I think a lot of people have this idea, well, I'm going to come onto the board and I'm just going to be changing everything left and right.
I've got a bunch of ideas easy. And I'm going to run with them, and they're going to work and they're going to go. And that's why it's a board.
Okay. Well, so that's something to keep in mind. And Christy, actually out on the board, thank you. You are absolutely right. Elaine King, as she says, is kind of a touring pro. Elaine King, the most winning woman and golfer maybe of all time, certainly has a unique perspective. And then she has, secondary and tertiary education and is brilliant on and off the course. She's a very unique situation in a lot of ways and an amazing human and individual. She's someone we can point to and look at. And even her, I would love to hear her have her explain and say, what's the misconception on the board? When you come in with ideas, like, you don't get to just change everything overnight, and not everyone's going to necessarily see it in your favor. And like you said, hence the reason for a board. So, All right. Enough rambling. People think I'm just hating. I'm not hating. I'm not just trying to keep it real. There's just a lot of things going on, and it's part of my ingrained passion. Maybe when I see some things and I feel like,
well, there are things we've seen.
2 or 3 sides to every story, and there's history here. And to me, it's just not all at face value. There's a lot more going on than people realize.
It's funny seeing some of the same ideas recycled decade after decade that some of maybe the younger players don't get to see or didn't get to see that we have seen. I mean, we've seen the players union discussion happen, 15 years ago.
10, 12 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just funny seeing some of these same ideas recycled, and maybe eventually some of them might work and some of them might not. But let's move on. Let's talk about something else. I don't know what. Just anything. Anything else.
Segue and transition, you have to have something else in mind.
I know, but I'm sick of talking about that.
No, that's fine. And I apologize. Well, I don't totally apologize.
Not on you. No, just in general.
Some people think, oh, Terry's just ranting and doesn't want to let it. I'm not trying to rant, but I have opinions, and I have a microphone, so I get to battle.
I was going to say, we're the one with the podcast. We get to talk what we want to talk about. All
right, Chris.
Let's talk a little bit about Ledgestone this year. We've got Ledgestone coming up. What do you know? What changes we're going to see to the course? I think last year we saw, well, other than Josh Anthon demolishing the field by 10 strokes, beating Paul Macbeth by like 10 strokes. We saw some issues with some baskets last year. There were some complaints about some putts. This year, it looks like they've got that resolved. We've got the brand new Discraft baskets, I believe I heard. Is that right? At the Eureka
Chainstar Pros. I haven't been out there, but I'm assuming yes, they are. I thanks to Jordan Castro's Instagram post, Chainstar Pros can be confirmed.
Good. So I won't have to hear anybody complain about that. That's awesome. Any change? Do you know of any changes to the course? I heard they lengthened a couple holes. But
I honestly, I don't. I saw someone on the board just post a moment ago. So because I didn't have a chance to get out to Eureka today, Seth, who was out there participating in the skins, I believe, this evening, and therefore a donator to St. Jude. Appreciate it all, Seth. Seth says, "What does Terry think of the changes to Eureka? I heard Sexton talking about the B pin on 13 being a legit par 6 and." I can't speak to it. I have not seen it again.
13, is that the big dog leg right? Where
over the water and then the further carry probably?
No, that's not what I'm thinking.
I'd have to do my math, but I honestly have not been out there to see that. The one thing that I do know, besides the baskets, I think I've seen from post and maybe a little bit of video is I think there are cement tees on every hole out there now. So even though essentially it's a temp course, like if you came out here in a week, you can't play the course layout, which is crazy. In that there's now cement tee pads out there. I don't think they did it ultimately on the water tower hole, and maybe on hole 1 they utilized maybe some of the existing stuff, but otherwise I believe there's cement tee pads out there everywhere on the course, which is a really huge improvement. Some people can complain, of course, about cement tees, but for the most part, you shouldn't complain about them being level or rocky or dirt or something like that. So assuming they were installed well. Having cement tees is usually considered a significant improvement over non-cement tees or temporary tees, at least.
Do you think we're going to see
that's happening?
Do you think we're going to see a repeat of that performance by Josh? Maybe not necessarily to that extent, but do you think is this the type of course that suits him and his style so well that he just is that we'll probably see him in the top 3 or 4? Or was last year just kind of a, guess what? Josh is unstoppable. It doesn't matter what the course looked like. That weekend was Josh's weekend. Or is this a course that suits
last year, I mean, and most of you know, I'm not smart enough to be a numbers guy, but if I recall, didn't he have like 3 OBs all of last year?
3 or 4.
Or something like that?
Maybe it was 4.
Something like that. Like, when
Paul
you're
had 15, I think.
yeah, I mean, and when you stay in bounds that often over 72 holes,
maybe it was 17. I don't remember, but
you're going to have a huge advantage right off the bat. I mean, you're obviously not just giving away strokes to the field. Josh has proven he can do that. And for those that don't know the history, Josh also did something very similar at the final round of the USDGC a number of years ago. He went out, the ropes were, I think, maybe the tightest they've ever been that particular year. And I think he shot like a 53, which maybe was or sat or broke a course record. And it was, I think he maybe went OB on the final hole or something like that. But he's proven that he can be pinpoint accurate and throw as far as you need to. And I think that's where he's a really special case scenario. You know, I think all of our players, you know, your Macbeths and your Wysocki's and everyone can prove that they can be pinpoint accurate, but then to be pinpoint accurate and have the correct distance is obviously a very unique combo. And Josh, I think, has proven that time and time again that he can do that. So would it be crazy for him to win again like that? It wouldn't be crazy. Would I bet on it? No. Josh and his wife, Amanda, just had their second child like less than a month or two ago. So I don't know if Josh has been practicing quite as much. I don't know if his mindset there is quite the same. I don't know if he's going to be thinking about his newborn and his wife and his toddler back home. Josh is obviously a fierce competitor. I don't know if he's going to have that, that edge maybe that we saw him have last year. Sorry. So,
okay.
Again, I know it sounds like a cop out. Could it happen? Sure. I don't think it's going to. That would be my short answer, though. I wouldn't
pick him.
Either.
I wouldn't, and I didn't. I'm not going to pick him to win. I'm just curious about if you think he's a top 3 or 4 player because of the course. I see Josh as he doesn't have that huge crush like a Macbeth or Wysocki that when they air it out, there's a little bit more play in their landing zone. Josh is much more of a direct thrower. Like when he throws, it's a line, and it doesn't usually see a lot of big skips and hyzers. So
yeah, I think Josh will be up there in the top, but and he very well could win it, but I don't think it's going to be the blowout that we saw last year. And
I don't know if we'll ever I don't know if we'll ever see a blowout like that again.
Well, and you also didn't think we'd ever see an 18 under, so
I didn't say that. I said I don't think we'll see another one.
I just made that up.
You're the one that's getting older, not me.
Yeah, right. I don't. Disc Golf Nerd says he thinks Climo has it on lockdown.
It's a good pick.
I don't think he does this weekend.
That's a good pick.
Speaking of the Masters field, I think, and you may have just quickly glossed over it, and we're not going to see him this weekend. And there's a number of players, so this kind of segues to it, that the Pro Masters Worlds is gearing up, and I believe there's already competition. Thank you, Derek. Derek says he's super chatting for me to get sunscreen. The Pro Masters Worlds is taking place in Kansas City. There's activities that start as early as Saturday. And there's obviously just some, we'll say, practice that people are getting in. So there are a handful of players that I think that would maybe typically be here competing this weekend that aren't, because they wanted to put the Pro Masters prep in the front of that line. I think of someone like a Shasta Chris, who we saw last weekend. He won up in Lake Superior Open in Wisconsin. I believe he took down that A tier, and he's taken down a couple A tiers. I think he won in Des Moines the weekend before. But we're not going to see him here at Ledgestone this weekend, if I recall a post from him. We won't see him at Ledgestone, and he's going to move into Kansas City for the week and prep for Kansas City and get ready for all of that. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, I think similarly, Patrick Brown, I don't think we're seeing here at Ledgestone, and I'm pretty sure Patrick Brown is, in fact, he's not registered here at Ledgestone. And no, lots of Browns, not a Patrick Brown, because he's in Kansas City. So there's someone, I mean, whether he's in Masters or whether he's in Open, Patrick Brown is obviously a tough competitor, but you're not seeing him here this weekend. So there's just a number of those players that I think about that are going to be elsewhere for the weekend. So kind of a side note. Some people, yeah, we can talk about Pro Masters Worlds next week. That kind of will be just before I head out to do some coverage out there, and we'll save that conversation for next week.
Sounds great.
All
I
right.
think we can wrap this up tonight. We can go to the after show, have maybe a shorter after show, and
Sure.
do a giveaway. We'll give something away, and yeah, that's it. I got nothing more.
Okay, solid close. All right, so I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to thank, of course, City Church, who's going to be our host for the weekend. They, again, some people are a little too trustworthy. I show up with a whole bunch of cameras and lights, and next thing you know, they leave the entire. This is a massive facility. It's more of like an industrial warehouse type facility that was ultimately converted into a very, very modern style. Like I'm looking at pool tables and ping pong tables and band supplies, and this is just a massive facility. And just like that, they're like, okay, here's the key, lock up. You know, we got stuff going on in there every day, but here's the key and lock it up. And so very trustworthy, and we appreciate it. We'll be here all weekend for the women's coverage, which is going to start at 2 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. So we'll be bringing you that shot-by-shot coverage, of course, and then we'll be out at Lake Eureka giving you the action from the men's side. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. That's been 207. Stick around for the after show. We're going to have a giveaway. We'll answer some questions off the board, and we'll see you a little later. We'll see you next time when you step inside the Smashbox. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's 207th After Show. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy,
It's weird
along
when
with
we're not
Johnny
next to
V.
each other to do that.
I know. I mean, I think we still nailed it. That was
always
definitely
do.
a solid opening. Yeah. So we're here. We're going to give you guys a few more updates and information, as always, in the after show. That is the best opportunity. Interact, post a comment, a question, a thought, whatever it might be. Well, we usually skip over the vulgar or ridiculous ones that come in on the chat. This is on the YouTube live chat. We appreciate you if you're watching on Facebook or our single Twitch viewer or wherever else. But if you want to interact with us, the best way to do it is via the live chat on YouTube. And we'll try and read through some of those questions, get some quick question and answer session there. And then the after show tonight might be a little bit on the short side. I'm not going to lie. It's really hot down here where I am. At one point, the air conditioner kicked off, which was probably great for audio, but then it got even warmer than it already was. So it's hot down here. I've got some editing to prep for. I've got a new update. Our cameraman isn't going to spend the night in the Atlanta airport. It sounds like he just may stay a few extra hours at the airport, and that flight will come into us here into Peoria. So sometime in the middle of the night, I can now go get him. Should be awesome. All right. So I'm going to read some action off the board and see what we can find. There was a lot of conversation on our regular show, of course, talking about everything from the PDGA board to a ton of different results of, I think Johnny said there were 7 A tiers across the country. And then also we talked about the ESPN read and all of the information that went along with that. So Disc Golf Nerd asks, is there no Euro Open this year? I'll be brutally honest with you, Disc Golf Nerd. I know there's about 2 to 6 really large overseas events every year. And I'm not going to lie, they all just kind of blend together for me. Only because there's one that's the Masters. Is that what they call it? And then it rotates, and it only happens every other-ish year. The Kona Piste, that one's pretty easy. That's recognizable. That's a specific event at a specific place. But I feel like a lot of them rotate, and I can't keep them all straight. Some are majors, and then some aren't. And then you have events like the Toonie, which is, essentially becoming the GBO of Europe. I can't keep them all straight. And that's just my egotistical, Americanized way of thinking.
Xenocentric.
Thank you. The official term out there. Yes, Disc Golf did give us money in the super chat. $5 will not cover the Uber, but it may go towards it. We appreciate that.
For those of you that don't know, today is
European Masters,
August 8th. Just a few days ago, my co-host celebrated his 40th birthday. Congratulations. Welcome to the club, Terry. Was it 5 days ago? Yeah. 3rd?
4 days ago.
4 days ago.
4th.
The 4th.
Yeah.
One of those days. Yep. And then.
Well, thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So you are now just as old as me. You are an old man. You can no longer make fun of me. You can.
Again.
Yeah. Congratulations. You don't look a day over 45. I'm happy that you. Anyway. Yeah, I know. You're all sunburnt. Congratulations.
No, I'm not actually sun. I'm probably a little warm in here.
Probably from the.
And it might be a little bit sun. Actually, I did finally get out and do some filming in sun from today. But yeah, I certainly want to say thank you times hundreds and then some. I received a ridiculously absurd amount of very, very polite, very encouraging and gracious comments on my Facebook feed and in other social media forums. So thank you. If you said happy birthday, if you didn't, I don't like you anyway. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously, I can't thank you guys enough. It was very it was awesome. And Johnny, my good buddy here, with maybe one of the nicest posts he's ever made. I certainly appreciate it. It was, turning 40. And of course, as many of you guys recognize, and we kind of even touched on last week, the fact that I'm at a tournament, the fact that I'm, helping run it and or doing media at one, and it was National Disc Golf Day, which is going to happen about every 7 years, I think, on my birthday. It seemed all very, very, I don't want to say fitting, but it was great. And so thank you to everyone. I very, very much appreciate it. So National Disc Golf Day, by all accounts, by all the posts that I saw, seemed like a great success as well. I saw manufacturers getting into it. I saw the PDGA getting into it. Seth from the Pro Tour. It was great to see. So we'd love to hear what some of you did that was maybe out of the ordinary, what some of you did during National Disc Golf Day. All right, Blue Boy out here says, you need as many events as possible in which all the best players across the globe, splitting it up across the globe sounds like it hurts both sides, and you're definitely not. If I'm reading that correctly, I'll just say this. It's obviously, I'll say the obvious. It's incredibly expensive for us to go over there, or them to come over here. And right now, when you're talking about a tournament and let's just say you win, and you're taking home anywhere between $1,000 and $3,500, and that's if you win. For a lot of people, that's entirely a losing proposition, because A, you're probably not winning, and B, the costs add up very quickly. So it would be great to see more international full-scale events. I think the best of the best are going to make their way over to the U.S. for some of the biggest tournaments. And I think we're going to continue to see that for many, many more years until there's just way more money to make it worthwhile. Your life is officially more than half over, the healthy half. Then I'm in trouble. Let's say that. Can we get Gordon Ramsay on the show? I'm not sure where that comes from, Disc Golf Nerd. I think it'd be great. I don't think I want him yelling at us because I think he'd find a way or a reason to yell at us. That just seems like his MO. Joe PG says, I got carded today for beer when I was out to dinner with my family that's visiting, and I'm 43. Clearly a compliment and then some. Very cool, Joe PG. Terry got me home safely instead of an Uber during the Charlotte Worlds. Thanks, Terry. Happy birthday, says David. David, you're welcome, buddy. It was great meeting you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the beverage many hours earlier so that it was out of my system by the time I gave you a ride home. You are absolutely welcome. Worlds was a who cares if I had to go hours out of my way for you? It was great. Nothing weird in disc golf about random people just giving you rides. All right. Is Eagle UC's prisoner? I think Eagle's. Well, Eagle's not here this weekend. Is he? Well, him and Simon, two highest profile names, not here, Johnny.
Yes.
This weekend?
I think. I don't know if Eagle is still overseas. He was overseas as of like a week ago. I don't know if he's still over there. I'm fairly certain Simon's still over there. And that would just make sense with family and whatnot being there. But I think Eagles not here because Eagle's not a fan of the course. I mean, I think he made that clear a couple of years ago. Now, I would be curious to see if he came back, what he would think of some of the changes, and he's going to have to find that out next year when Pro Worlds is at the Eureka course. I mean, it's not you can't avoid Peoria. You just can't.
Yeah. All right. Reading a few more down the list here. So side conversation. Robert McCall's on the board. Robert, hope you're well, buddy. I believe you're here in Peoria. I had a great conversation with Cool Daddy Slick Breeze today on my drive down. And Robert McCall's name, of course, came up. How can it not when you're talking about that hair? Someone says, I'm kind of surprised MJ is playing. And if you're meeting this weekend, I mean, obviously, something to throw out there. Discraft, and I think I'm right in saying this about all the manufacturers. No manufacturer demands that a player, well, maybe one. As far as I know of, though, manufacturers don't demand that players are there. There are what seem like natural or obvious opportunities for a player to then attend a large-scale sponsored event, but they don't demand it. So MJ could be here. MJ could not be here. I mean, obviously, he's a superstar on the Discraft team. And we know that MJ enjoys wooded courses. I don't think that's a big secret, but just because it's not wooded, I don't think necessarily keeps him out of it as well. Is MJ's for sure playing? He's touring everywhere.
Yeah. He's like the seventh,
10 o'clock tomorrow.
7th highest rated player.
Okay, perfect. Well, there you go. All right. Reading down the board, Clayton says, yeah, Kyle Klein has a bright future. We talked about him way earlier. He certainly is really good. I talked about him when we talked about the next gen stuff. Look for footage that involves Kyle Klein. Ledgestone question. Do you edit FPO over noontime to play it during the live afternoon, or is Central Coaster Joe Mez editing your footage? So the way, yeah, right. That's what Cool One is asking.
Yeah.
So the way that it works real quick is just basically Chad tomorrow will be out there filming. He'll film holes, we'll say 1 through 3. Danielle, who many of you have seen throughout the last year or two, helping not only riding bikes back and forth to grab the footage, but also does a lot of work with UDisc. So Danielle will literally run or ride her bike out to Chad. She'll grab an SD card, bring it back to me, usually at a booth or in the trailer or somewhere. I will then edit together those 3 holes. And then Danielle goes back to him 3 holes later, grabs the card, and we continue this very, very high-paced, super stressful activity for the next like 4 hours. And then usually we have to rush off to some other place to make sure that it gets uploaded to Johnny. And as that's happening, everyone else is in transition. And then tomorrow, 2 women will sit in these 2 seats, this spot right next to me and here. And then they will play the footage that I've then delivered to Johnny. Johnny will play it for them to watch. They commentate over it, and you enjoy it. So that's the quickest explanation. So yes, we're doing all of that. And then later, just I think as a nice touch, we put that out in slightly lower resolution because that's the way our broadcast is put out anyway. So I could put out in the best resolution and you wouldn't be able to experience the full resolution anyway. So what we ultimately do is then I take the footage that they commentated over. I then take that, cut that up again, put their voices back over the commentary track on the original edit, take out the commercials, and then we release it again on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you want nothing but that 1 hour of women's stuff, you get it on Tuesday, and then you get the next hour on Wednesday, and you get the next hour on Thursday. So then we release it as separate, and that goes to the Pro Tour channel and to the Disc Golf Guy channel for the whole collaborative effort to try and get it out to as many people as possible. So that's how that works. It's pretty intense. Who's in the FPO hot seats? Johnny, do you remember? I don't know if that conversation was had.
Are you talking about? Yeah. Are you talking about our featured card with Paige Pierce?
Oh, it's Paige Pierce, Paige Bierkes, Haley King, and Katrina Allen tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know who's sitting down and doing commentary tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, the hot seats is the commentary. Oh, sorry.
If that's what she means.
I'm assuming so.
I'll tell you, I don't recall. I feel like I heard it for tomorrow, but I honestly, I don't recall. Some things go in and out of this head. Yep, Christy just mentioned who they were. Disc Golf Nerd says you really should do more for FPO, Terry. I know.
Stop.
I should.
Stop, Disc Golf Nerd. We don't need another rant. We've had like 3 of them on this this show tonight between Terry and I. I think we're good. We don't need to get into FPO.
Thank you, Christy. Says Terry probably does more for FPO than any other media.
I don't
know if I want to say more, but I feel like I'm more involved with that division than the others, but that sounds good to me.
Someone asked if Haley King's going to take top 5. I'm going to say no. I bet you she's just under. I'd guess the 5 to 7 range. She's a very good player, but she's young, and this is a very intense course where I think experience helps you out quite a bit, and I think she might be lacking in that a little bit out here, but she could surprise us.
We'll see. As Christy says, she's 913 rated and 16 years old.
She's a heck of a value pick for fantasy. I'll say that.
David K, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it, buddy. I've been silently blackballed, but I still have a wrench somehow. Disc Golf Nerd. Josh Anton winning again. We've talked about Josh as to whether or not he's going to win again. Rewind about 10 minutes. We had that lengthy conversation. Seth says I got 5 on it. JVD that she takes top 5. Sounds
Seth,
like a bet there, Johnny.
All right, Seth. I'll take you up on that. If she takes top 5, I'll send you $5 via PayPal. If she takes less than 5th,
send it over to Johnny.
And you're going to send it to me.
Robert McCall was out there today scoping things out, saying, David, it's definitely possible that because Josh was throwing quite well today, as in reference to Josh Anton possibly winning. So Robert McCall scoping things out there on the course. Makers Telemark says, if Haley makes the over on 10th, I'll become a Patreon sponsor. All right. Wow. Christy said, I watched her throw a stalker like 400 feet, and she was barely 15.
There's no doubt Haley can crush.
Yeah,
she throws very well.
Dad's drunk, coming in with the hot stats as he always does. He likes to get on them. He says, again, there is only one tournament that Paige and Ricky have both played the last 3 years that neither has won. Man, are you good with databases? Is that how you doing some queries out there? That sounds like an impressive stat. So Paige nor Ricky have won this tournament, and it's the only one in the last 3 years that neither of them have won after playing for. Interesting. Danny Lindell in the top 10. I'll take that bet. I love you, Danny, and I can't wait to talk to you about other stuff that's related to other things, not your top 10 finish, but I would take the bet against that.
Danny's a wonderful, wonderful person, and he does so much good for people who want to look at the form critique stuff. There ain't no way he's taking top 10. I would bet I wouldn't even give him top 20. Sorry.
Ouch! Wow, Johnny bringing the heat.
This field is stacked. I don't think Danny would argue with me. This field is stacked. Like yeah. Sorry. Like I said, Danny's a fun guy and a good player, but he's not even 1,000 rated. I think there's 50. That looks about right. There's about 50,000 rated players here.
Thank you, Michelle Lopez, for the super
Thank
chat.
You.
Huh. All right. Well, I mean, Danny, we wish you the best.
I would 972 for Danny. Yeah, no way.
Okay.
Robert McCall, on the other hand, if he snuck into top 25, it would not surprise me.
Okay. Who finishes the highest, Danny or Robert?
Robert all day long.
You got to give Robert the nod solely based on skills and rating.
Solely based on how good he is compared to the other guy.
I mean, come on. All right. I don't know if we have any other questions that need to come in. If you do, bring them soon, because otherwise we're going to do a drawing soon, and then we're going to start wrapping some things up. But if you have any legitimate questions that you need to bring at us, please do. Dad's Drunk is bringing us more info so we can sound smarter, Johnny. He says that Paige, the last 3 years at Ledgestone, has taken second, and fourth. Ricky has taken 6th, 12th, and 4th. So, yeah, those are some numbers.
Well, Dad's Drunk, what I want you to do is make sure to have Terry on Facebook. Send him stuff during the broadcast so he can sound smart. Because
please do that.
He's got to keep up with Dixon, because Dixon actually does homework. Terry?
Research.
Not so much.
Good for him. David says, is Drew Gibson playing? I believe that he is.
He is.
I would assume that he is.
He would be a good pick as well.
Jeff Hawkins asked, where'd Nate Doss go? Nate and Val, I don't think you're going to see a lot of them for the remainder of the year. We've talked about it a couple times, directly and indirectly. They have gotten the keys to their building. In fact, funny tidbit, I got some great Discraft Challengers with my Tear Bear stamped on them, and I was showing them off to Val. I sent Val's a little more active on social media. I sent her a Facebook video. I said, hey, cool, look at these, because they got their Nate Doss Challengers. And I said, how are things going with you guys? What's going on? And she sent me back a video of Nate Doss working a jackhammer. And just that's a jackhammer. Working a jackhammer at their building. So that tells you, if that tells you anything, it tells you that they're serious about construction and development over at Bevel Beer. So that's where that stands. I remember always saying I never want to ride my motorcycle and then go throw disc. It always, because your arms, after the vibrations for a few miles, kind of make your arms feel a little out of whack. Or
that's why I ride no-handed.
Exactly. You're a rough rider, DMX style. Anyway, shut them down, open up shop. So anyway,
stop, drop.
I can't imagine working a jackhammer and then going out and trying to play disc golf within like 6 or 8 or 12 hours of doing that. and it looked like they had a big spot to do. So anyway, long story short, no Nate.
We
no
probably
Val.
won't see them till Worlds.
If even there.
Really? Wow. I mean, I obviously the bevel is hugely important in their future. Wow.
I know. Can you imagine
not seeing
a
those
World
two
Championships without Nate or Val?
No.
It sounds crazy.
Because considering Nate would be a favorite by a few people's picks to win Worlds based on how he did last year at Smugglers. And
Sure.
Val is never out of it.
Ever.
So it would I mean, I would understand it would disappoint me. I gotta hope we see them. But if we don't, wow. It's like a hole in your stomach. Just something doesn't feel right.
I wish I had a hole in my stomach.
There's surgeries for that.
Maybe. Speaking of events, there's a segue in there somewhere. I just really quickly wanted to say I am ecstatic, and there's going to be more details to come, and I've kind of hinted at it, and I'll leave it at this, but it looks like I'm going to be traveling international come the end of the year. And just yesterday, I sent out my passport to get it ultimately renewed. I got a passport in 2008 to go to the Japan Open. I got to use it to go to there, and then 2010 for Japan Open and Norway in 2013. So I was a little disappointed how much my passport, how the lack of stamps and usage it got. However, at the end of this year, it looks like there may be a need for my passport. So super excited. I finally have been talking about it for weeks and months and filled out the forms, finally got the picture taken, all of that stuff, and dropped it in the mail just 2 days ago. So super excited. Fingers crossed on it coming back. Okay, it should. But yeah, super excited. I'll keep you guys posted as to when that's going to go down. All right.
Let's do a Patreon giveaway, and then we'll figure something out as far as what you're going to send along to some wonderful people.
Yes, let's. I always say this. I'd like to grab something from the event if I forget or don't. The good news is I've got a ton of other Discraft related items that I can also give away. So one way or another, it's going to probably be something from our friends at Discraft. It may be specific to Ledgestone. It may not be. I will say this. If Haley King wins, I will get her to sign a Discraft disc, and I'll send it out to every Smashy we have. So you guys should be pulling for her, because then everybody gets one. Everybody. All right.
We have 197 Patreon supporters. Once again, if you want to support Smashbox and help us do wonderful things like pick up a new laptop for our broadcasts and editing and stuff like that, as you did yesterday, I believe you went and bought that. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Every dollar goes a long way for us, so we truly, truly appreciate it. There are 197 patrons this week. Ooh, here we go. And what number should we pick, Terry?
Well, 3 seems to be a good number. Well, not if you're Ricky or Paige, but all right. We'll go with 3. Dad's Drunk. You inspired me, Dad's Drunk, and I know I don't say that enough, my friend.
Number 23 is our third drawing, and that's right on my front page. Luke Adolf.
Sweet. I feel like that's a new name even.
It is a name I have not heard. Let's take a look at Luke's history. Luke has been a Patreon supporter since March of 2018, so I truly appreciate it. You are a wonderful person in my heart.
Oh, we like you, Luke, a lot. Thank you so much. And a valid question, and it's funny that I chuckled when I saw it at first, but it's totally a valid question, I guess. Out on the board, someone had asked if Haley King is a daughter or at all related to Elaine King, which is, and now that I think about it, again, totally a valid question, but absolutely no relation whatsoever. And for those who really care to know a little bit more backstory, I have known Haley since she was like this tall, much shorter. Hails from my hometown, or one of where I kind of grew up in New London, Appleton, Fox Cities area, Appleton, that area. Johnny V lived in Appleton. But Haley comes from our home area, just south of Green Bay. Some of you know the Packers. So that's where she is from. She's a Discraft sponsored player and a young superstar for sure. So, and not related to Elaine King. All right. I think we can wrap things up. What's the giveaway for the 200th Patreon? Wes, you get a high five. If you become our 198th, 199th, and 200th, just create different usernames and logins and then contribute different amounts.
We've had actually 200 patrons. At one point we had 201 and then a couple fell off.
Ouch. And then they thought you sucked and they fell off.
They're not wrong, but.
All right. Blue Boy says, last question. Who would win in a fight between Danny Lindell and a malfunctioning Japanese robot?
Danny.
Okay. Danny. We'll go with Danny. 200 Patreon. Yeah, we're making wages doing this now. Mad wages. And I know you may be saying that a little tongue-in-cheek, but there are, believe it or not, some legitimate costs. And we also then give back in terms of not only Patreon stuff that we give away, but we also then support our regular contributors, people like Dynamite, Disc Golf Nerd, Paul Ulibarri, Zoe, those types are regular contributors. And then what's also great, and I will take it a little bit more serious in that we also are able to do things like Johnny said, occasionally purchase new equipment for upgrades. And, things like Dynamite, Dynamite, who is a regular on the show and who struggled with some internet, and us being able to help support purchasing some new equipment for Dynamite. Those are all the different types of ways that your Patreon money, when it's all said and done, a few dollars goes in our pockets. But also there's a lot of good ways that money is spread about. And it's, let's just say it's more on McDonald's dollars, more so than say Outback dollars.
And I do want to hear a little bit of feedback if we can, not like the feedback we had when we started the show, like the reverb feedback.
Hey-o.
I want to hear some feedback about the picture quality for this event. Like I said, the company Teradek, who we purchase our broadcasting transmitting equipment from, lent us 2 of their newest units at, I think they're like $4,000, $5,000 a piece, which push out a much better signal at the same bandwidth that we were using. So I'd love to know a little bit of feedback as to if you think that the broadcast looks better. We're actually going to be pushing out, normally we push out in 720. We're going to be pushing this broadcast out in 1080p. 1080p, 30 frames a second. I couldn't get 60 frames to work properly. It kept giving me a little bit too many jitters on my system. I just think it's not quite powerful enough. So we're going to do 1080p, 30 frames per second. And I'd love some feedback, because if it works out really well and it looks that much better, that's $10,000 worth of equipment we might have to go out and purchase. So let us know with a little bit of feedback over whether it's in the YouTube comments, which we read. Nah, don't put them there, because that's a Pro Tours YouTube. Or put them there and tell them that they should buy SmashBoxx some equipment. There you go. Anyway, just let me know what you guys think and how it looks.
Sounds good. Yeah, please. Always looking for feedback as long as it's not mean. Just kidding. Dixon will be the commentator. I have not seen him. I'm guessing I'll run into him at some point tomorrow, probably minutes before we go live. But Dixon Jowers will be our commentator here this week. Just hope the cell signal can keep up with 1080. That's a legitimate concern and question. And of course, we're hoping that everything looks and sounds just great.
I believe last year there's only like 1 or 2 little sketchy spots on the course. It's like hole 3 or 4 or something, where it's just really wooded over where we're going. I think it's right before the baseball diamond hole, where I think we had a little bit of issue with just a little bit of skippage of cell phone. But for the most part, we should be pretty primo.
All right. Yes, I said it will be Dixon. Will we have the same shirts? I don't know. We have not sent any messages to each other whatsoever. if you haven't noticed, I own like 1,000 blue or blue-ish colored shirts. I'm guessing I'll have some kind of blue shirt on tomorrow. Dixon gives Terry the wide eyes like 10 times per event. Cool one says, Dixon arriving at airport at 5 a.m. Please pick him up. No, just kidding. No, but I'm not. And then Disc Golf Nerd said, if you send something in 1080 at 60 frames, we still make it work. That's not a problem, one way or another. All right, guys. We certainly appreciate it. We're looking forward to a really exciting week. Instead of, you're getting 25% more instead of just 3 days of coverage. We're giving you 4 days of coverage this week. We hope that you tune in. We hope that you support the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We hope that you support what we're doing here at Smashbox so that you can have this live action. There's going to be a couple of new and different post-production crews out there. I think we'll be talking about those as the week unfolds. So we're hoping that you enjoy them as the disc golf media continues to grow and thrive and continue to improve on lots of different fronts. And I'm excited to see how that unfolds this weekend as well. So I have to send one final shout out. Again, thank you to the Next Gen for the really fun experience at the Midwest event in Crown Point this last weekend. Dave and Pat and Cynthia, that whole crew, along with Colt and Grady and then Jay and Deb on site, Chainsaw, all of those guys, just everyone that had any part, all of the participants, all of the people out there. It was a really fun weekend, a great way to spend my 40th. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. It was a lot of fun. So, all right. So for Johnny V and Terry Miller and myself, the Disc Golf Guy, that's been podcast 207's after show. We'll see you tomorrow for the live broadcast as we bring you guys shot by shot live action from Lake Eureka here in Illinois. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smash Box.